truth?
Oh, I'm all ears.
Okay. The truth.
I always tell the truth, even when I lie.
Why do you find it so hard to believe?
Why do you find it so easy?
It's never been easy.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.
Hello, and welcome to Truthful Talk. I am Marco, and I'm here once again with Natalie, and we're here to talk about something.
Some stuff. Some acting stuff.
As you know, on Truthful Talk, we get on here and start talking, and we see where it goes. Mm-hmm. We usually have something we want to talk about, but, at the same time, we like for it to flow and see what happens.
Yes, absolutely. And you were going to say something right before you started pressing record.
Well, we were talking about, you had mentioned something about creating a persona for yourself, which sometimes it's kind of like an advanced acting thing. But as an actor, we can take the tools that we use to create characters. And sometimes in life, we can create characters for different situations that we have to do, which are different personas of who we are. And celebrities tend to do that. Mm-hmm. Celebrities tend to create a persona for themselves, like when they go on the talk show circuit, for example. They're uncomfortable doing that, but so they'll create a persona that is more comfortable doing that.
Right.
And they take that quote unquote character. Because so many actors are okay when they're playing a character. It allows, when you step into this other alter ego, it allows you to do and say things that we don't normally do. But then actors really struggle being themselves. And so by creating this character thing, sometimes it allows us to do things in the real world that we don't normally do.
Yeah, like I create a cleaning house persona. Like I can do this.
Right.
Whatever it is to get you in the zone. I think it's actually super helpful. It's something that I've been just dabbling in. But it does help. It just sets the mindset somewhere else. Because we are, I think most actors are, what do you call that? Introverts.
Introverts, yeah.
Believe it or not.
They are, yeah. I think that, most actors.
I think most. And of course, there's the ones that aren't, but I think most of them are. So doing that, the amount of promotion it takes, the types of things, we were talking about social media promotions, and you were talking about the circuit, television shows, all that stuff where people don't want to do it, they're just like, but they put on the persona that they can do it or they enjoy doing it. This is easy.
So many times we'll see actors or even like stand-up comedians or like that, those type of actors that have a lot of energy, and we'll expect them to be just like that in real life. And what people don't understand is, no, that's a persona. That's part of the character they're playing, either in stand-up comedy or comedy movies or TV shows.
Yeah.
And in real life, they're actually very introverted.
And they're it's just fascinating because I always thought the same. This is a new there was awareness for me as well, because I just didn't think that, like you said, the comedians, it's like they have to be funny all the time. I'm sure they are. They're amazing. And then no, they have moments where they're human as well. They're not always on. They're not always giving this high energy, they're actually just, grounded humans. Actually, I know a lot of the comedians I know, very, very grounded, very spiritual, very like you wouldn't think based upon the material that they're showing or that they're doing. Kind of interesting.
And so I've been seeing some celebrities come out lately, and I don't know, to what extent this is true or anything. Mm-hmm. So this is alleged, but there's some celebrities that are coming out saying that Michael Jackson had a persona. That actually his persona to the public, the very soft-spoken, the higher voice, all of that was just a character he played for himself, but he actually had a deeper voice. He was more, I guess he more had a different persona when he was around just close friends.
Yes.
but then he put on this display when he was out in the public, but it makes sense. I mean, you create when you're as big as MJ, it's you have a certain thing that the public needs. Kind of like a Jim Carrey when you're expected to be on all the time. Robin Williams, you're expected to be on, and people would say, "Oh, he's on all the time." No, there's an expectation for you to be on all the time.
Yeah.
So he had to do that.
That's exactly what I thought of. Actually, was Jim Carrey when this came up, was the fact of how amazing he was in his earlier career. What was it, In Living Color, all that stuff, to all the big movies, and then when you see him talk nowadays online or whatever it is, like he's very grounded, very spiritual. Maybe too much for certain people, but there's a whole other aspect to him that's fascinating to me.
Well, that's an interesting thing because he is very spiritual, but I think he's always been spiritual. He just hid that part from his persona to the public because he's supposed to be that crazy, wild, like in Living Color or, Ace Ventura. He's that type of comedian. And now when he's coming out and being spiritual, which is too much for his fan base, most of his fan base, that's why they're saying, oh my God, he's gotten so weird. But he went through an extreme trauma.
Yes.
And so
was it like his girlfriend or something passed away or committed suicide?
Suicide and blamed him for it.
Oof.
So that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot to take, of course, for anyone. But I think it got him to the point where it's like, listen, I'm going to just be unapologetically myself. And this is who I am now. And because even when he was doing his bigger comedies, Liar, Liar, and The Mask and all of that, he still wanted to do very, both spiritual and also just, I say positive, wholesome, dramatic movies.
Yeah, thought-provoking, dramatic, dealing with.
Yeah, but his fan base didn't want it. So, which is normal. Like, it's kind of like you listen to certain music, and then all of a sudden your band decides to play a different sound, and you're like, wait, what happened to the band I used to know? And it's like, so we have expectations, and I think celebrities, they're under this constant expectation of what they're going to do. It's difficult.
Which is so fascinating to me because I think of those who have had those incredible careers. Madonna, of course, she comes to mind only because of she was, let's say, promoted as someone who could be a chameleon or change or her look, if you will. So something to be said about changing with the time or evolving, moving forward and not getting pigeonholed in one thing so that she was able to have a super long, incredible career that's still going. But then someone like Jim Carrey, who was just in this realm for quite some time, that high comedy, I don't know, slapstick. I mean, I love Jim Carrey. I quote him every day, several times a day. I think he's a genius. But I guess the core of who was watching his films didn't want to see him stretch and evolve and do those things. But I think people who are, let's say, more, I don't know, open, artistic, if you will, like you want to see artists do things that you give allowance for that. You give space and you get excited when someone does something like, what was it? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That one. What was the other one? He was in the Dome when he was.
Oh, that was the Truman Show.
That was the Truman.
Oh, that was so good.
And if I just really watched it not so long ago, and I was literally emotional because of the profundity of the situation. So, anyways, I just think that maybe the business aspect of this industry, let's say high business, but he's doing high comedy and he wants to express himself, and he just gets in a certain zone for so long and has to break through that, even as successful as he was. But someone like Madonna was able to just keep it going or evolving. I don't know, something about maybe visual art and music. Like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting to me, but I think there's something to be said about constantly evolving. And
I mean, Jim Carrey's so talented, and he always has been. Even when he was doing like Ace Ventura, that ridiculous comedy, he was so good,
so amazing,
and he had a freedom on stage. But I think the general public looks at the type of work you do, even though it's a sliver, and we think that's the entire person.
Right.
And it's like, no, that's not all someone like Jim Carrey or Robin Williams. That's not all they were. I mean, look at Robin Williams, who's able to go back and forth from really heavy grounded drama to then really crazy, kind of massive energy comedy.
Yes.
And he was able to do both. And it's
magical.
It's amazing. And so we have these in life, we have these different personas. And each persona kind of, dictates. I mean, we do it naturally. Like if we go to work, we have a work mask, right? What I call it, that we put on. It's like, this is how we behave at work. Now, your work people might not know certain aspects of you that your friends do.
Right.
So you have a friend mask you wear in front of your friends, but they might not know how you operate at work or at home.
Yes.
So then you have a home mask. And it's almost like each one of these masks filters different personas out of you.
It makes sense. I'm just thinking how much fun it sounds when you have the ability to be aware of that and then control that, or put something on that you're like, this is what I want to do because I want to, like, you're in charge of doing it yourself instead of just by doing it default wise, if you will.
Right.
Kind of interesting.
Well, that's the thing. Most people do it automatically. We're not aware that we're changing masks, or we're actually just playing characters. That's really what we're doing.
Go figure.
We've developed characters for different parts of our life.
Yeah.
And really, when we learn acting, what we're learning is, one, how we do that in life. And then two, what happens when we take all the masks off? What's underneath that? And then how do we then build new masks on top to then play other characters? Because we have to take all of our social masks off because those are already characters. So we take all of those off, getting down to the depth of who we are. And then we create new social masks that we put back on for this character or that character. And it's not even just that we're putting on a mask for the character. We put on different masks for the character in different environments.
Sounds so easy.
Right? This is the character at home. This is the character at work. This is the character in whatever extreme environment that they're in.
Yeah. When you say it like that, you just don't recognize how much work that goes into it.
This is why learning psychology and deeper emotion and all of this stuff, this is what acting is really about when we start learning it. Which is what most people don't understand. I mean, we think, I want to learn acting because I want to learn how to play a character. And it's like, well, yeah, we do, but we do it in a way where we actually ourselves learn how to become that for real. We don't become it in our real life. We don't lose who we are in our real life, but we learn how to, I'm going to take my mask of the real world. I'm going to take that down, who I actually am. Put that down for a minute and put on something else, and I'll truly live moment to moment in this character, right? Living truthfully under imaginary circumstances.
I was just thinking that how it reminds me of being at work, one of the little jobs that I have in simulations, right? So the simulation ended. It was let's say end of life simulation. It ends and someone walks in, it doesn't matter who, but anyways, she says, it's incredible how you can just have those crocodile tears going. And I was so aghast. I was like, crocodile tears? Like, these are real tears. There is no separation for it. But she can't understand that. She thinks it's just me pretending to cry in a way, but she doesn't understand that the preparation that goes through that in order for that to be expressed fully, that they're not fake tears.
No, it's for us, it's very real in the moment. By real, it's not, because I know a lot of people that are trying to, think about acting, or maybe you've started acting and you're wondering, how do we do the deeper emotion? It's real to us in the moment. Now, it's not real as in we believe it's actually happening in our real life. There's a separation from our real life to our imaginary life. So we step into this realm of imagination. But within the realm of imagination, it's very truthful and authentic. We're really feeling those things. I mean, we're really going through, if we're going through a devastating moment, we're really going through a devastating moment in that time.
Yeah. And when you watch actors on camera and do all these things, you'll hear people who are not trained in acting and just be blown away by, oh my gosh, like, how is she doing that? How is she crying like that? And it's just an incredible thing because the layman doesn't understand that whole process. And I just love the fact that we as actors, when we do it in a healthy way, we understand that it is imagination and meaning, but it's also a muscle that gets exercised constantly over time. But how on the other side, people might not think that it's real, but it is real in the moment.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, because that's, I think, what we learn. We learn how
Yeah.
to step into it and step out of it.
Yes.
We actually flip. It's almost like having control over a split personality. We're able to flip over into a different personality, and then when we're done, we go back to our own.
Which is even scarier when it happens in front of someone who doesn't know. It's kind of cute. Like, weren't you just crying? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm good. This was a great time.
It is amazing. So as an actor, when we have to perform maybe on set or sometimes in front of others that don't know, that is one of the things is people immediately come over and they're asking you, are you okay?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm good. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but because it's so authentic what they're watching, which it is to us too. But when we're done, we snap out of it
Yes.
and we're out. We're good. We were acting.
Mm-hmm.
And we know how to flip those switches in and out. But it is amazing how people will come up to you and say, oh, you okay?
Yeah.
Do you need
And they're
anything?
very concerned about you. And
Very concerned.
it's a beautiful thing. You see the empathy a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why it's also wonderful to have directors who are actors or trained in
Yes.
acting. They don't have to be actors, but it's nice for them to have that experience so that they know. So they're,
Yeah, no, I contend that actors make the best directors. I think directors, and listen, as a director, if you're studying film and everything out there, it's not that you have to be actively on stage or even in front of the camera, but you have to understand acting from a deep level process, because there's going to be two types of directors that as us actors we run into. One is going to be one that understands acting and that can help guide us in a very safe way to where we need to go. And the other is going to be something we call a technical director. A technical director is going to tell us the result of what they want, but they have no idea how to collaborate with us to get there. So a technical director will say, that's good, but I want you to do it again, but I want you to be more sad.
mm-hmm.
It's like, well, as a human, we can't be, quote unquote, be more sad. It's not something we can do. So as the actor, then we have to translate that into our own language and our own process to do that. Versus an actor's director understands what the process is, and they'll jump in with us and they can kind of work it through.
Yes.
They can speak that language. They also understand what we need as the process, meaning that we need a few minutes before we run the take, or we need some private time, or whatever it is.
Yes.
But they can help break it down in that way. So if there's anyone that is thinking of being a director, study acting. It's the best thing that you can do, and it's the best thing that film school is not telling you.
Oof. And it's so useful. It just, like you said, you don't have to be an actor, but if you do a couple of semesters in acting class and you are able to sit in their shoes for a bit, and you're like, okay, this is what I can give them, or all that to help them along in their journey and collaborate. And maybe even, which is the best thing in my opinion, you can have rehearsals for you'll say, okay, I want to rehearse this scene, and not just because you want the camera here in front of you or the lighting, but you want to have the relationships as strong as they can be. You want to have the doing as strong as you want to have the arc of the entire thing. I think it's a very useful tool. And you've had several students come from directing class, come and experience acting class, and they've all said incredible things about the experience.
Yeah, it's right. Because I teach directing too at the local university, and when those students come and take the acting class, it's elevated their game as directors, And then also they have a new profound appreciation of acting.
I can see their aha moment. I can see it happening. They are massive fans of directors and all that stuff, and they're there. And after they do the exercise or the semester, I mean, emotional appreciation for it. And and you're an incredible teacher, but they see the other side, and it's like an opening behind the curtain. It's wonderful.
And it's an unfortunate thing that in film school, for the most part, you're not going to get that training. They give you the technical training of camera work, composition, editing, all of those type of things. They'll give you the technical thing.
It's crazy. I never knew that. I thought that they would with the acting, but they don't.
They don't. It's a weird thing. In most colleges and universities, there's a drama department, which is typically theater. Mm-hmm. They teach acting. Then there's a film department, which is separate. It's a whole different program that you're studying, and they're teaching behind the camera, but they teach everything but working with the actor. Most of them don't teach how to cast actors. So you have all of these students trying to cast and have no idea what they're looking for. They don't know how to evaluate talent. They don't know what they're looking for and not looking for. So then typically you have students and then eventually independent films where they're casting and they're completely typecasting because they think that's what, I just need to find someone that looks the part. It's like, no, that's not how it works. And then they learn, you have these directors, you're going through a director program, you get your bachelor's degree, everything else, sometimes even a master's degree. And through the entire program, no one taught you how to work with an actor. You learn that on your own. And the problem is most new directors, student directors, even independent directors, since you don't know, you're using bad habits, either your own or somebody else's bad habits.
Yeah.
And so that's why the best directors out there will study acting and will do some level of acting on your own.
We got to get some of those students. That would be interesting to get their experience. And
it'd be so simple for a film school to say, as part of the acting track, go take, like the two electives that you need to take are in the drama department. Like just go take a couple of classes and learn the basics of acting, or bring in someone. I mean, I'm very fortunate that the university I teach at here is that they bring me in. I mean, I'm one of the few that actually teach at the university level acting for filmmakers, and I teach a class that is how directors work with actors. So it's I'm fortunate that my university actually sees the need for that, but most don't, simply because they don't know how to teach it. They don't know what to teach, and it is a
unique position, though. It's something that only those who were directors who just love directing said, I want to learn acting, or vice versa. I think of Quentin Tarantino, who was an actor first.
He was an actor,
and then he flipped to that side. But the Scorsese, I believe he was the director, and then he just, I don't know if he ever was an actor, but he
studied it.
He studied, right? But it's like they had so much
Spielberg,
love that they wanted to get the best quality on camera of acting on camera, and that's a very unique position. And I don't think in general that's like a bridge to the other side that just is very it's a special position that not everybody does, because they feel like they can direct without having the acting experience. But man, does it open different like levels of quality. But
completely. And if we think about directing for a second, it's like, what does a director do? And if it's something that you're thinking about doing or going into school for directing, or if we really start breaking it down, many times when I'll talk to somebody that wants to be a director and say, what do you think the most important parts are about being a director? Typically they'll talk about camera. Well, I need to understand how to run the camera. I need to understand how to create the shots. I need to understand how to do all of that. And believe it or not, that's not important for a director. It's great if a director knows every department. I mean, that's ideally a director should know every single department and how to do it. But you have department heads that do that. As a director, I'm going to have a director of photography, meaning my cinematographer that understands the camera and understands how to create the shot more than anything. I have a vision in my head. So I would love it to look like this, and I'll sketch it out. We call that a storyboard. I'll sketch out what I want it to look like. Their job is to actually make it happen. Their job is to collaborate with me and say, hey, look, I did this. What do you think?
Yeah. Or this is what I could do with what I have.
Yeah, exactly. We have this camera. We have these lights. Here's what I can do. It's like, okay, great. Do that. I have a whole camera team that's running the camera. So I just say what I want. They figure it out. So we have all that. I have a production team. I have a design team, a hair, makeup, wardrobe. I have all of that. I have, the whole art department. That's, I just have to have a concept of what I want. Everyone else does it.
Yeah.
Production finds me locations. Like everyone else is doing all of that. Sound is doing their thing. Everyone's doing their thing. So what's left? Acting. I don't have anyone else to guide the actors outside of the director.
Yeah.
That's what a director's job is, because we have other people that does everything else.
Go figure.
But working with the actors is the one thing that it all falls on top of the director. But yet that's the piece they don't teach.
And that's the piece that they don't teach.
They teach cinematography and sound and editing and production and all of that stuff.
So when let's say a high awards ceremony, when they're giving out these awards for best director, what are they assessing?
Well, usually in the award ceremony, best direction is going to be a combination. It's overall storytelling, basically. So they are assessing the acting. Because you'll notice a lot of times best director, best picture falls under also the ones that have the best actors. They kind of go hand in hand. So a lot of times it's vision of the project and then the execution of that vision, which goes to best director. And then in a very similar way, you'll see best director, best picture. They're all kind of lined up.
Okay.
Because best picture is a combination of all the departments together.
And all of them all working at a high level. Sound, production, location.
Right. So
photography.
If we're looking at 10 different films and we're ranking them in different categories, best picture is going to be one with high ranks in all the categories. Yeah. Best director, though, is going to be cinematography, editing, and performance.
And then in those performances, if we get a little bit more focused in that, you're looking for, or what are you trying to get out of your actors when you are directing?
Truth. I want truth, but I don't want mundane small truths. I want truths that I don't see every day. Meaning I want to see an expression of emotion that I don't see every day. I want to see someone go through something that I might relate to, but that I'm afraid to feel those things or express those things. So it's the expression of truth and the expression of that internal life and internal storytelling, emotional storytelling that we don't see every day. And you'll see typically your best actor, best actress categories, like in the Oscars, they go to the emotional moments. That's what they show.
Yes.
They show this really deep emotional moment. It's like, yeah, that's it.
That's it.
But then why are we not training directors to work with actors to hit those moments?
Right.
It's overlooked completely. And so you have directors that come out of film school and not understand acting at all. So then they just expect that we as actors can just do it without direction because they don't know otherwise. So it's an interesting thing. And I just think it's a lack of knowledge at the university level. It's also a lack of, there's a difficulty teaching directors this level of acting. There's psychology in it. So it's like, oh, we're going to cross that boundary with the psychology department. There's, it's vulnerable. There's all these different departments. Everyone's like hands off. And so it's an interesting thing, but it's a glaring hole in the universities today.
Do you think that actors should study directing, or you think that that's something that is just if it pulls you that way as an actor, or do you think it's beneficial for an actor to actually study directing?
Yeah, I do actually. And in fact, I'll tell my students, the acting students, that one of the best things they could do is work behind the scenes, either in theater, in film, but not just in directing, but learning how a film is made. How is the television show made? How is a theater production put on? Understand more than just the role of acting, because sometimes actors get really frustrated with the process, especially film. There's a lot of waiting around in film as an actor.
Yeah.
But the crew's not waiting around. The crew's constantly working. And sometimes, it might take 2 hours to set up the next shot, but they're working really hard to make that shot look exceptional for you, the actor. So instead of getting frustrated on how long it is, by working as a production assistant or just behind the scenes and realizing how much goes into it and how much care they're putting into making you look so good, I think as an actor, we have a much greater appreciation of those things.
Do you think it helps with storytelling? Learning to direct?
I do. So as an actor, that's a really good question. So as an actor, we typically take on the point of view of our character. So if there's, however many main characters there are in a story, we're jumping into our point of view of the character, what we want, what we're fighting for, what our version of the relationships are, so forth. But as a director, we have to take on the whole picture. We have to know how every single person fits into the puzzle and then how it all mixes together. And so what I found is that by studying directing or understanding the overall story process, we learn how to make better decisions as an actor when we pick up a role. Because it's not just what choices am I making for me in this role, it's what choices am I making for my character that affect the story in a positive way. That's best for the overall story.
Right. It's so much. I'm just trying to think. Okay.
Well, I mean, you directed Sam and myself in that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as an actor, I'm looking at my point of view.
Right.
Sam's looking at her point of view. You had to look at, how does it bounce off each other for the audience?
Yes.
There's a difference.
And there is a difference. It's pretty helpful from my experience. It's a lot to take on. I feel like a role of a director is so much to be able to, maybe little by little, but because you are looking at the whole story. I can't even imagine what it would be like for a play or for a movie with all of the moving parts and all of the, inciting incidents, the change and all of that stuff, to be able to see it in the big picture.
Right.
Because me as the actor is so used to just doing, like you're saying, this one role in different times, different days, but I have my little journey, my little map that I mapped out that's where I'm going. And that's it. But if there's, 8 more of us and we're all actors and the director has that whole thing put together, it just amazes me how they can utilize their brain in that function. I think it's just more brain power, or maybe practice makes perfect. Though I just overwhelms me to think of a play or something, to be like, woof, that's a lot. It's a lot. It's more than 2 people.
Oh, it's a lot, and
I can't. Yeah.
And they each, stage and film to me both have their challenges. Mm-hmm. Film is very disconnected. So as a director in film, I need to know, going into it. So pre-production in film can last a year or 2.
Can you just say that again? Because I don't get it and people don't get that.
So pre-production, which is the time that is leading up to production. It's before production. Production is when we're in front of the cameras shooting,
filming,
shooting. Filming. That's the shooting. Pre-production is the time before that, all the planning stages. It can take a year or 2 to put everything in place to then film. To me, that's the difficult part of directing, producing. It's that time because it's really just, it's putting everything in place so then production just runs smooth. But it's
Yes.
casting your actors, it's bringing all your crew on board, all your equipment, locations, legality, storytelling, storyboarding. So we're planning. 'Cause before you go in as a filmmaker, before you go into actually filming something, you need to know what you're filming and you need to know why. So we have a script, but then we have to break down the script. And then we do these things called storyboards, which can be anything from sketches of stick figures
Words.
to really very, but to things like, some storyboards are like works of art.
Yeah.
But it's pre-visualizing what we're going to go film. And then the departments need to figure out, how do we do it? It's like, this is what it looks like. So are we doing it practically? Are we going to use post-production to CGI anything on top of it? Like, how are we going to then pull it off? And that can take months to just figure all that out. Is there any, then there's costuming and hair and makeup. And is there any sort of, are we doing any creature work depending on what we're doing? Or, is there any prosthetic? There's so much that goes into it. And just figuring all that out. Then we want all of that figured out. So as the director, the other thing we need to know, we need to understand acting really, really well so we can hopefully have rehearsal and be working with our actors. What we want is that when we get to set, all the actors already know what we're doing. It's almost like, when we get to set, that's the live performance.
Yes.
But we need the rehearsal so we understand what the live performance is supposed to be. So we have to do rehearsal. The other thing we need to really understand as a director is editing. So when we edit a film, we're taking all the things that we collected and we're piecing them together to tell a story. Well, we need to actually know what the edit is prior to filming, because otherwise we don't know what we're collecting. Like, what shot are we going to do? What lens are we going to use? What angle are we going to be? Like, what is all of that? How are we going to compose the shot, meaning the arrangement of people and imagery within the frame? Like, how do we know what to collect unless we know what we're going to use it for? So we have to pre-visualize the edit, which is, again, what the storyboard does. And so we're making the film before we make the film.
Right.
By the time we get to production, we're just collecting the pieces for the edit.
That's a sweet way to put it.
And then the edit is where the film is actually made.
Strung together. The pearls are strung together.
Well, now we have the pieces. Everything leading up to the edit, which is we call post-production, everything leading up to the edit is just preparation for the edit. Because now whatever we actually shot, those are the actual puzzle pieces we have. And now as an editor, my job is to tell a story with the puzzle pieces that we have.
Yes.
It's fascinating. So a director, there's a lot that a director needs to be involved in before production. And typically directors are involved in the edit in some way. Even if they're not the ones physically doing the editing, they're overseeing the editing with the editor.
Yes.
And and then it all just, it comes together that way. It's a whole, it's an interesting thing. But from an acting standpoint, that's what, a director needs to understand. What do we need for the edit to really tell the story? And then how do we get the performance out of the actors for that?
Yes.
That's what we need. Now, on stage, it's a little different. On stage, it's all about the acting. So a director needs to understand. So think about this. It's in film and television, it's about editing. So it's a visual medium from the standpoint of we're watching something on a screen. And how does that string of or collection of visual images, how do we piece those together to make someone feel something, along with music and sound and everything else? Well, in theater, it's all happening live in front of you. It's not the same. We can't edit in theater. So from a directing standpoint, we need to edit live, meaning editing is pulling focus. Editing is all about, I'm going to tell the audience what to look at and straight on screen. I'm going to put into focus what I want the audience to see.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to take out of focus what they can ignore.
Mm-hmm.
On stage, we need to do the same thing, but it's all in the acting.
Mm-hmm.
The acting needs to pull focus. The arrangement of the actors needs to pull focus, which is we call blocking. How they move, how it's so precise that it all falls onto the acting,
Mm-hmm.
which is why, as a director, we need to understand acting.
Gotcha.
Because it's not just about, so many times in community theater, you go into rehearsal. Rehearsal can be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, somewhere in there. First rehearsal is called a table read, where you sit around and you read the script out loud. And typically in community theater, second rehearsal is blocking. They start arranging you in the space.
That's
And-
not even built yet.
It's not even built yet. Right. So it was some random space it's a rehearsal space. And so I always had an issue with that. As an actor, I had an issue with that. It's like, how are we arranging where we're moving before we even know the story we're telling? I get the stories on the page, but we haven't explored the characters yet.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't figured out who these people are, what's motivating them, what's the internal life, what's all of those things. And so we even have technical directors in stage, and they're the ones that want to jump to the blocking. They want to jump to, no, as long as you know where to move and the lines to say, then we have a play.
The walking or the blocking will take you to the next line or the next, yeah.
But if you really understand acting, actors that become stage directors know that we block last.
Yeah.
Because that's the editing. We can't, even though we have a vision for the story we're going to tell, we have to then explore the characters in rehearsal and figure out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decide what we're going to actually.
I love what you
piece
just
together.
said. Blocking is the edit, the stage edit.
Yep. Yeah. A big piece of it,
I love that.
because depending on how we move and how we
Mm-hmm.
construct things and where the actors are positioned from one another, if we're further apart from, if I take two actors and I move them apart on the stage, then I'm showing a distance.
Yes.
I visually have a void between them, versus if I move them together, there's a reason they're coming together.
Mm-hmm.
I can't figure that out before before we explore the acting, before we explore the performance and the personalization, personalization is trying to figure out the motivation of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we do or say anything that we do? Before we know that, how do we know where to move them? How do we know? Because as humans, we either move towards somebody or away from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're either being pulled or we're being pushed.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a motivating factor as human beings of why we move. And then of course, there's the arrangement. We move actors in a very specific way because that's what the audience will look at.
Mm-hmm.
So typically we don't want actors moving at the same time. We don't want distracting blocking, which would be like a distracting edit.
Mm-hmm. It's so simple, but at the same time, difficult, challenging. But it's easier for you to understand if you have that experience on both sides, from the director and the actor. I think it makes more sense the more you do shows as an actor. But then if you have the ability to direct something or co-direct something, then you can see how everything is from the other side. So you recognize that, it's not all about me here, that you are part of a team more so than yourself.
Yes. Oh, big time. It's
Big time.
collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I think that, because we learn all these tools as actors over time, but we learn all these tools.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so to take as an actor, learning all these tools on stage and why they're important, and to take them into directing, I think is easier
Yeah.
than trying to learn them after the fact as a director. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah. It is fascinating because from that side of the actor, even though we put so much pressure on our shoulders as actors, but then when, you get a direction from the director and the other actress has moved, downstage, and like, why is she there? Like, meaning is in the very beginnings of it, you're not understanding that there's a whole reasoning behind it. But once you do understand that language, as a cast member, that this is because it needs for the story, it has to be done.
Yes.
in a beautiful way, in a very like a relaxed, easygoing way. I don't know how else to explain it, but it was an aha moment too, like coming from, let's say, high school, middle school, all those things that you don't recognize why. Why do I have to stand here? You know, like, anyways, it's just interesting.
Well, because, yeah, right. You don't necessarily know.
You don't know.
Just from the
You
acting
just
standpoint.
it's just like, just stand there and don't say anything. Don't move.
A great example is, and you see this a lot on TV and you don't even think about it, but especially on stage too, two actors are sitting side by side on a couch. And what we do is, in order for the audience to have the best shot of them, is we have them both face forward. It would be facing the camera or facing the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Actors have this feeling that they want to look at each other when they talk.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look, you go into profile and all of a sudden it's not as interesting. It
No.
loses an effect to the audience. So all these direct actors, okay, do the same thing, sit side by side, but don't look at each other, just face forward. And they have trouble with it. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't. And until you step on the other side as the director and look at it and say, okay, I want you to experience. That's what I'll do sometimes with actors. I'll pull them out and say, okay, come out here, look at it both ways and tell me as an audience which one feels better.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, obviously the one facing forward feels bad. I'm like, yes, it does, which is why that's how we have to do it.
Yes.
It's for the benefit of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
But you really only get that viewpoint as the director.
Right. The
Working in that.
perspective, a different perspective from what you're doing, but from just a different side, which is lovely to see. And you do have these neurological connections that you're like, oh, that's why. Oh, he wasn't being a jerk about it. It's because the audience is also, that's why we're there together. We're doing it for them.
Actors will also, are very concerned. And I understand where this comes from, but they're concerned sometimes. I'll ask them to do things and they feel really silly or they feel ridiculous doing it. I don't know if you ever felt that in any of the things, but you just feel like this is out of my element and they're worried about it. Like, I'm worried that I'm going to look bad. And I have to remind them, I'm like, listen, I'm never going to make you look bad on stage or in front of the camera.
Yeah.
It's always for the benefit of the character, which is the project. I'm not going to sabotage the entire project, whether it's a film or whether it's a play, trying to push you somewhere where you don't think you can go. It's like, I know it's silly to you because you're not used to doing this. You're not used to singing these lines, or you're not used to doing this which feels like maybe over the top thing, either when you're saying something or doing something. But it's like, no, it's all, I promise. I always have to promise. I promise I will never make you look bad to the audience.
Yeah, I feel like, yes, I have gone through that experience, but it was a while back, but yes, I have. And I think you even said it, like, I promise I'm like, I don't know, but it's a trusting thing and you have to go learn through that lesson too. And I remember there was an actress when we were doing one of these shows, and I remember you wanted her to be bigger as she was jumping, and she just didn't want to look like an idiot. But and it took a while for her to physically get to a point of excitement and jump. She was supposed to be scared or something. Somebody knocking at the door, but I remember, and I saw myself in her, previously, like, oh, okay, here's her moment of has to trust you to say bigger. No, you're not. It might not seem real to you or authentic, but this is what the audience sees.
Yeah, it's a much better experience from the audience.
It's a much better experience. And then, so you have to kind of go through those bumps a little bit. But that's a growing curve, learning curve, and helpful for sure to be able to see. Because then it takes away the self-confidence. And that's, I think, the death of an actor, if you will. That if you lean into the no confidence.
Right.
If you lean into the fear of that, you're not ready to be able to make an offering or take a risk or look like a fool. And I think that's a lot of the job too. Sometimes is just being out of your comfort zone and being okay with that.
Yes. Most of the time we're out of our comfort zone. I think as an actor, even when we're doing which seemingly looks like mundane things, we're not ourselves. We're stepping into a different life. But I think this comes back into, I think we talked about it like in the previous episode, but was trusting your director.
Yeah.
I think when you learn how to trust your director, you can let go and just, even though, listen, this is not me. It doesn't feel right to me. It's weird, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to go where they're asking me to go. Now, with that, I think coming into this episode, for an actor, I think would be more apt to trust their director if the director understands acting.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it's almost like when you go to, in a very weird way, but you discover or admit that you're an alcoholic and you go to AA.
Yeah.
Well, they give you a sponsor.
Well,
your sponsor is not somebody who's never had a drink in their life.
Touche.
Your sponsor is somebody who has been through the fire and has come out the other end and says, listen, I've been there. I've hit rock bottom. I've come out the other end.
I've had my stomach pumped.
I know what you're going through. I because I've been there myself and I can help you out. Well, as an actor, if we have a director that's like, listen, I understand. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've struggled with these things myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you through it.
Yeah.
Man, that's so inviting as an actor to have someone that understands what we go through and understands the struggle as an actor.
Yes. I agree. I mean, most of the directors that I've worked with outside of you are mostly technical directors. And so I've had this discussion with other actors too. It's like, but when we do come back and we work with you, like you're the base of it, but because you are an actor and a director. So the bar is, you hold the bar very high. So when we go to other people, it's like they were okay, but you can tell that they never had experience being an actor. And you can see it. And there is some kind of chasm between you two. No matter how much you gel personally outside, there's a language on set when the lights are on, when the whatever pressure, quote unquote, pressure is on. And when they're trying to tell you something and you're in a zone, it's clunky. It's the conversation is you're trying to speak the same language, but you're from two different planets. It's like you're trying your best, and then you do your best when it's like, okay, you got it. You're like, I think I do. Okay, sure. Let me give it a go. Yeah. But instead, if you have somebody who is a director and has that experience as an actor, oh boy, the clarity, communication, like you're both on the same page and you understand each other and you get it. So then you know where you're aiming or where you're going with it. So it is super helpful.
That's a really good point. You know where you're aiming. I like that. And I think we get a deeper performance out of it.
More meaningful.
We're going to get a more meaningful, more specific to the story, more specific to the character. We're going to get that more powerful performance because we're both talking in the same language, aiming at the same direction.
And the non-specificity of acting, I feel that even it comes through. I can't explain it. Somebody can do it like, oh, they did a great job. But man, I don't know. It feels like there's not enough. And that's the word, specificity, focus. As an actor, the choices we make when we're writing, like everything, people, places, things, like we have to know what we're talking about. But at the same time, that's just the personalization. But with the director, having that, the double whammy of specificity, and you're both on the same page, I think it's even more focused, sharpened, if you will.
Yeah.
Because it falls a little bit flat if it's not. If a director's like, yeah, do whatever you want. It's like, oh, man.
So many times I run into maybe community theater directors or, community theater is an interesting group because everyone's volunteering their time, which I think is really cool, right? A group of people come together, volunteer their time to create theater, whether it's building the sets and directing and producing. And so it's a really, really cool place. But at the same time, I've run into a group of producers, directors that don't want to train. It's like you think you know it all because you've come up in, you were raised in, or you've been around this. It's one of those things where it's like, no, I've been doing this for 15 years. Why do I need training? It's like, well, no.
Yeah.
What if you could do it better? What if you could actually take it to the next level? Why not?
Why not you? Yeah. Why not?
And so it's interesting. I find that people who have been doing it for a long time don't want to learn a different way. I guess old dogs, new tricks. I don't know how that works, but to me, I'm always trying to learn something new.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the blessing of keeping evolving, moving forward, moving past your comfort zones, always pushing yourself emotionally, mentally, in healthy ways, but getting better, basically doing better than you did previously. You don't want to do the same thing over and over again.
Right. And to me, as a director, producer in theater, why not learn more of what actors go through?
Yeah.
Especially in theater, that's basically who you're working with. You bring on actors to do shows one after another. Why not know what an actor needs or maybe to cast better?
Yeah. There's
Like
so
all
many
of that.
so many elements in this world of acting, in the business of acting and the artistry of acting. There's so much to do that if, to me, you rest on your, I guess, laurels is what they call it. You lean back and you don't do much. To me, you're quote unquote sleeping on it because
Right.
there's always something to do, especially as a director, but even as an actor, as whomever it is, it's just to sharpen that tool. I was just in rehearsal and with some people and we're having a discussion and it goes back to the basics. It's the core. It's like, you know what? And these people are seasoned. So it's just something that you can always work towards becoming a better version of yourself. I think you should. I think
always.
you should aspire to that.
Yeah, I think we should always do that. And wow, we're almost out of time again. Do you believe that? This
It
conversation
flies
went
by.
so fast.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I agree with that. And it's interesting how this one, I guess today was about directing.
Go figure.
But no, I do encourage, listen, actors out there, I encourage you to, if you have any, well, first of all, actors work behind the scenes in theater, work behind the scenes in film. And for film, when I say work behind the scenes, find a film school that's local to you and get involved. Believe me when I say student filmmakers need help. They need something called production assistants, which are just kind of general hands that can help them do things on set or in pre-production. Most productions, both independently and students, need help with casting. They need something called readers. A reader are actors that are in there and are reading the script opposite the actors coming into audition. So, and typically we want actors for that. But there's so many ways to get involved that I would get involved. Theaters are constantly looking for volunteers to help out. And most of the time, you help out with a local theater and you get to see the show for free.
Yeah.
That's really cool, right? Even if you're taking tickets at the door or you're an usher, something very simple, but then you get to see the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, that's great. I mean, that's a great way to do it and expose to more theater. But I think actors, we need more directors and quality acting type directors. So actors that have any sort of inclination, just start getting involved behind the scenes and learning how that goes. And then typically in the bigger cities, but you can look anywhere, there are going to be community theaters that encourage beginning directors. And you can go and you can direct a small, 10-minute show or something, but you can get involved and just start directing, just start doing it. And then in film, for all my either film students out there or for anyone that is looking to be a film director, study acting, take an acting class, just start learning what it's all about. Because that's going to help you. It's also going to help your actors and it will help your films and put them at a much higher level. And that's what I got.
Sweet. Very sweet. Makes sense. It's helpful. Expand.
So thank you all once again for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Please make sure you spread the word of Truthful Talk to your friends, family, or anyone that might be interested. We would appreciate it if you do.
Absolutely.
And we will be back again next week. So we will see you again then. And until then, make sure you treat yourself with kindness and reward yourself for the risks that you take. All right, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. If you'd like to learn more about our studio and what we do, you can find us online at truthfulacting.com. And check out truthfulactingonline.com for our Learn at Home at Your Own Pace courses.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.